Okay, hi, this is Alex S. Johnson once again, aka Kandy Fontaine, and this is the Kandy Fontaine Show. And I'm so excited because I have with me today David Rocklin, who is not only a novelist, a finalist for the Penn Faulkner Award, I believe. And is that correct?
It was the forward award.
The Forward Award. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So, anyway,
But if you want
and
to bestow the Penn Faulkner upon me, like sort of like FIFA apparently does, just make up an award and give it to me, I'm here to accept it. Is it gold?
is
Is it gold laminate? I'm
right.
excited right now.
Right. Yes. That's so funny. Yeah, right. I could conjure one.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Give me the little bobblehead pinhead. I want that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is a treasured, possession. And also,
Yes.
okay, I'll explain things. So I'm neurodivergent AF. So I've learned to just roll with it. So
Hmm.
so I'll explain who these people are. Well, obviously one is Edie Sedgwick.
Yes.
And the other is my cousin, Bibby Hansen.
Ooh,
So yeah, it's
that's
14,
awesome.
14 years
That
old,
is
right? She was
awesome.
14 years old. And
Okay.
when they took that photo, and she'd
Okay.
already like was a, she was already like a professional. I mean, she and Jan Kerouac, had a
Hmm.
band when she was like 12, 13, 14 years old, right? And now she does something called Black Fag, which is her kind of trolling Henry Rollins and
That's hysterical.
with people like Vaginal Davis, and
Okay.
she's
Hmm.
hysterically funny. So
That's funny. And now, thanks to you, I've got Ian Astbury screaming "Ciao, Edie" in my head. So that's
oh
your fault for showing me the picture.
yes, Edie Sedgwick, rest in peace. Um,
Hmm.
so and then also just leaning into the neurodivergency. Um, One of our contributors is a man named David J. Haskins, who's familiar to people who like culture and music and have seen a movie called The Hunger. And he wrote a little
Oh.
ditty called, Bela Lugosi's Dead, right?
Hmm.
He's also written plays, including he wrote a play about Edie. So everything in my ecosystem kind of seems to eventually meet. You know what I mean? It's just like a worm Ouroboros.
Yeah.
It's just incredible. So I'm going to introduce you. So there's a kind of an anchor. A lot of these shows, for some reason, nobody introduces themselves. Like
Oh.
so you're like, well, oh, another thing that you do with no shade, but like the little snippets, but at least you give some sort of context. You know, people will just show up and it's like, hi, we've got so and so, and I believe in context. It's very important.
Yes.
Like I started out in in the basically always wanted to be a writer, when I was like a little kid. I used to, my mom would subscribe me to like Rolling Stone and Writer's Digest, right? And I would read, oh my
Hmm.
God, there's an interview with Stephen King, right? And there's something on with an author I saw this movie recently called 8 Million Ways to Die, right?
Oh my God,
Have you
was
have you
that
seen?
Jeff Bridges?
Yes,
I
it's
remember this movie. I
fantastic.
It's been forever since I saw it, but I remember it.
Yeah,
Why do I remember it?
I don't know because
Yeah.
it's real good. I mean, it was just
Hmm.
kind of like it's it was an unforced account of an alcoholic.
Hmm.
And if you've ever been alcoholism adjacent or known people who love people who have issues, and Iris, God
Hmm.
bless her, for example, that they don't force it, they don't push it. It's it's a kind of it's a very ethical and for the genre. I mean, it's jaw-droppingly
Hmm.
responsible. You know,
Interesting.
it's a
Interesting.
it's a crime thriller. It's
Hmm.
got
That's what I
uh,
remember.
a lot of action, a lot of gunplay, a lot of,
Yeah.
things exploding and people being killed, but there's everything is very, very motivated.
Hmm.
And it's who is the author? Anyway, it's not private. People can look things up now. So okay, I gotta first say a little bit about who I am and what I do. So my name is Alex S. Johnson. I'm an author, an editor, and a publisher, and I run Nocturnicorn Books. So we are located in Carmichael, California. It's a suburb of Sacramento, but also we have friends all over the world and we have contributors all over the world and in all over the United States and China and in Greece and in India. And so
Oh, wow.
we're very multicultural, multinational, and multi um, uh, sexual orientations, and we're
Hmm.
very,
Hmm.
very extremely queer friendly, hence
Yeah.
the name Kandy Fontaine Show. And some of our contributors include Lasara Firefox Allen, who's the author of such books as Sexy Witch and Jailbreaking the Goddess. Caitlin R. Kiernan, two-time World Fantasy and Bram Stoker Award-winning author, who's been praised by the likes of Clive Barker. Um, uh, Billy Martin, aka Poppy Z. Bright, who's
Oh,
known for, books like Exquisite Corpse, a classic, you
the
know.
cipher. I loved the cipher.
And then there's Kathy Koja, who's one of the
Oh,
few people
Kathy
I
Koja. Yeah.
I couldn't get, but
Okay.
yeah, but Poppy Billy, and then Caitlin and Lissy Taylor, Clive Barker, Thomas Ligotti. Those are all people who are sort of part of what's called, I guess, now the new horror, and they're pretty much classics. And my friendships with these people go way, way, way back. So this
Yeah.
is kind of, it's always been about honoring the lineage, honoring the people who made it possible, who
Hmm.
kicked in the door,
Yeah.
so that
Hmm.
others, like when Poppy Billy came out with Exquisite Corpse, her publisher fired her as like basically, her his I will just use the correct gender, but for the time, it was Poppy Bright, and her I remember her agent said that he had to change his pants basically after he read the first draft of
Hmm.
Exquisite Corpse, which is about two cannibalistic serial killers in love, and they sort of bond over a young Asian boy who they want to kill and eat. So it's a love story, It's got also the sort of the kind of culinary element was,
Right. Right.
like Billy went into writing about sort of like foodie. It's not even horror. It's like foodie
Hmm.
restaurateur stuff. The liquor
Yeah.
series, which you have not, if you have not read the liquor series, you seem like somebody who would really, really appreciate that.
I will. And
Um,
didn't Exquisite Corpse kind of presage films like Bones and All? I mean,
it
it's so
oh,
far
it
ahead of
did.
its.
Oh, it
Yeah.
did. I mean, it was like, I think Dennis Cooper said something to the effect of, uh, makes most, so-called transgressive novels du jour seem like romance novels in a bad mood.
That's amazing. That's
Right?
fantastic. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
I am going to kind of bring up a, let's see, I'm going to see if I can, I'm terrible at multitasking, but I will bring up a some. Okay, so this is going to do this. So I'm just going to, uh, okay, so my guest today is David Rocklin. David Rocklin is an American novelist, writing mentor, and retreat leader. And we're going to get into specifically how we got in touch with one another and talk about some of the retreats that you do, whose
Yeah.
work blends historical depth, emotional resonance, and a commitment to creative community, because I'm all about that. He is the author of The Luminous, The Night Language, winner of a Forward LGBTQIA plus award. Okay, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. And the forthcoming The Electric Love Song of Fleischl Berger sounds really interesting. He's also the author of The Right Formula Craft. And sometimes, I get the wrong information. So a craft book guiding writers from concept to completion. That's what she wanted. Rocklin leads international writing retreats, including programs in France and Idlewild, and is the founder of Rorschach, a long-running Los Angeles reading series. His work as a book coach and editor is widely praised for its deep thematic insight, structural clarity, and compassionate guidance. So, welcome to the program, David Rocklin.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I'm really, really excited about this. So, this is sort of like I love movies, right? And
Mhm.
I for the longest time, ever since I can remember, I fantasized about this, and this has kind of been one of the driving forces that has allowed me to persist as long as I have in the face of a lot of challenges, including a learning disability. And I would say it's okay. So you're in a darkened theater, and you know, for some reason, all the people who've ever bullied you are in the theater as well. They don't know you're in the theater as well. They don't know that the movie that they're about to see, or actually, it could be the preview,
Mhm.
because even better. So they're going to see their favorite film, and they don't know that the preview that they're going to see before the film, right before the film, is like, okay, so this is just, I'm shameless about this, okay? So, based on the novel by Alex S. Johnson, you know,
Oh,
multiple,
yeah. Yeah.
whatever, winner of the Hugo and Nebula Awards for
Hmm.
whatever, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Soundtrack by Claudio Simonetti, right? And it's just like Clive Barker presents,
Nice.
you know what I mean?
Nice.
Clive Barker
Hmm.
and, uh,
And
uh,
then Bava's demons just come out and kill them after they
exactly.
see that a movie's coming out about your book.
Right. Yeah.
100%.
Right. Right. So
100%.
like Wild Bunch, Canal Plus. I will
Mm-hmm.
watch like the the credits to movies with a sort of, and I sort of try to manifest them into my
Yeah.
universe, which
Yeah.
is called the Candyverse. It's really, you're doing something right when you have other writers start to contribute to and enlarge your universe.
Mhm.
And so it's just like whatever. I love Claudio Simonetti. He does a lot of work with Dario Argento, and I've interviewed him, and he's a really sweet guy.
Oh,
And
that's
so,
cool.
right, thank you. And so
Yeah. And
I
I
just
love Argento films. So, I
uh,
mean, yeah.
yeah, Argento is just to die. He's like butter. He's like do you remember that the sketch with Mike Myers on Saturday Night Live where he's
Oh,
like
yeah. Like butter.
Linda Richman, Linda Richman, I'll give you. I'm feeling a little clamped. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll give you a topic. And apparently it's a real person.
That's
Like
funny.
it's his sister-in-law, so it's like, I'll give you a topic. The Italian neo-realist movement in film was neither neo-Italian nor truly realist. Discuss. I've got, what was it? I've got I had this down, and I'm just going to go back to talking about. Okay, so you lead writing
Mhm.
retreats in La
I do.
Défense,
I do.
and how long have you been doing this?
Yeah, so it's about 3 years now. And there are multiple retreats each year. Um, so there's actually one coming up. That the next one is April of next year, so April 2027,
Hmm.
in this absolutely gorgeous chateau outside Bordeaux.
Nice.
It's a few hundred years old. It's a castle. It's beautiful. It's evocative. And honestly, when I went there to host a retreat there the first time, I felt like I was returning someplace that I'd been to before. It was just a
Nice.
palpable connection. The warmth. It's on its own vineyard. A brother and sister, Estelle, who's absolutely lovely. They essentially took everything they had in life and
Hmm.
acquired the chateau so that they could revitalize the vineyard and the vintages that it produces. So they are now producing their wine again, which is, kind of a sensation there in Bordeaux in the region and in France.
Yeah.
So there's a vineyard and a working winery right on the premises. We, just like with all retreats, we keep the size very intimate. So
Hmm.
usually it's maybe no more than 10, 12 people at the very most. And that allows me to make the retreat very bespoke to every
Hmm.
writer who's there.
Right.
So we've all been to writing conferences or retreats or, panel discussions. And if you're a writer looking for guidance, looking for inspiration, looking for a path, to finding your voice or finding the story you're trying to work on, whether it's the first story you've ever done or,
Right.
the next thing you're about to do, and you're just trying to kind of find it. Going to things like that, you hope will open some doors and open ideas and spark something that you can carry forward. And for a lot of them, it's just a one size fits all talk, whether it's a retreat with a leader who has a set program. So today we're talking about character. You're
Hmm.
working on a memoir? Great. It's not applicable to you. Go find something to do.
Right.
That doesn't work for me. So these retreats, I make them customized. I make sure I'm very well acquainted with every writer long before we get there. I'll speak with them at length, and I'll make sure that the material we're going to talk about, which I use generative exercises, which are not writing prompts, they're kind of much more in depth than that.
Hmm.
I draw from things like combat sports, which I came up doing, martial arts. I draw from many different sectors.
Yes.
And I'll make sure that just thematically it's relevant to what everybody's doing, whether it's fiction, whether it's memoir, story collection, linked essay. I've had poets, I've had screenwriters who are looking to kind of take their screenplay and break it into another form, into another space. We've worked on that together. And they're special. People come away with lasting friendships, connections with each other.
Hmm.
The locations are all beautiful. We've been in Grasse,
Yeah.
Chamonix at the foot of the Alps. This next one, April 2027, is back in Bordeaux. There's
Nice.
actually, I think, like 3 spots left. In
Wow.
case any of your viewers are interested, please
Yeah.
reach out to me while they last. Um, they're extraordinary, and honestly, I never thought that I would be doing something that left me with that feeling, that resonance that writing myself does. But this is right there. The
Yeah.
experience of meeting new writers, finding their voices with them, watching them grow over even a period of 6 days, which is how long the retreats last,
Yeah.
being together with them, watching them create a space where they're taking care of each other and
Right.
they're looking out for each other's writing. It's not bubble wrap. It's not like you're not allowed to talk about difficult things. It's the
Yeah.
opposite.
Yeah.
It's you can talk about anything. You can go there because this space is going to hold and you're going to realize how powerful your words are. Watching that develop over even the relatively short time of a week. Extraordinary experience. I'm just grateful that I get to be there.
That's so beautiful. So when I was a little kid, my writing hero was Snoopy. And the reason is,
Snoopy at the typewriter.
you know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
every day I was obsessed with, peanuts. I would
Mm-hmm.
collect all of them. I would like cut them out of the newspaper. I would make my own peanuts collections. And, Snoopy was, among other things, a novelist. And
Mm-hmm.
and so I was like, well, he if Snoopy can do it, I can do it. And he
I
so
love that.
he would wait. This is in the days of self-addressed stamped envelopes. So, you'd read Writer's Digest and
Mm-hmm.
you'd mail away for writing advice books. One of the biggest compliments of my life was Mort Castle. He friend requested me on Facebook and he said, "You got the stuff, kid." And I was like, "What?
Oh,
What? Mort
wow.
Castle? Mort Castle? Are you
Wow.
kidding me?
That's
Are
incredible.
you pranking me? Is this like, you know, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
You wait long enough and you stick to it. And I would say,
Yeah.
like, but I don't know, it didn't. I didn't think anything of as like a cartoon beagle who technically should be not doing any of these things. I mean, he was an attorney,
Mhm,
he was
mhm.
a World War One flying ace,
I was going to say he was out there
right?
fighting the Red Baron,
The
100%.
100%,
Hmm.
and all these people. And speaking of, so Baron von Richthofen, so, Charles Bukowski, when he was like in his teens or so, he wrote a story about, Baron von Richthofen and his dad. He just like, he tore it up and he tossed all the pieces on the lawn or something. It was just like terribly like traumatic for Bukowski. But, you know, I will say for anybody who doubts themselves, whether you have learning disability like I have a
Hmm.
neurological disease, I'm in constant pain. Uh, but you know, who's ever out there, whoever is listening, we don't have a big audience, because most of our viewers are working writers or filmmakers, musicians, etc. So
Hmm.
they're
Right,
like,
right.
okay, Alex just posted some new content, whatever. We have like 15 views, but
Mhm.
it's sort of like what was said about the Sex Pistols. Maybe like 100 people in the room, but they all formed bands, right? So, you know,
Exactly.
you know what I mean?
I've done readings for two people, one of whom works there, but you know what? You don't know that maybe the other one went home and decided to write a poem. So
Exactly.
you know what? God bless. Who cares? That
God bless.
did somebody is different for having encountered your voice. That
Exactly.
is all that matters.
And so to just, tie up the loose ends on that story. So, back in the it was 2012 or so, I was involved in something called the How Dirty Girls Get Clean. And it was like Renee Diedrich. She was a, English teacher for, LAUSD, and I was a student
Mhm.
teacher. And we'd
Yeah.
been separately corresponding. And and she sent me something about like a very Hunter S. Thompson sort of, memoir that had to do with a widow and meeting the widow or something like that. And I edited it and I published it. And then she was doing this Dirty Girls thing. And it's the Dirty Girls were like Lydia Lunch, Iris
Hmm. Hmm.
Berry, Lisa Cherry, Puma Pearl was one of them.
Okay. Okay.
A lot of, fierce femmes, and and that and Jerry Stahl was one of their like
Sure. Okay.
honorary Dirty Girls.
Hmm.
So, and she brought me in, and I kind of edited partially, but she, I'm like blurbed. I mean, I'm one of the people who blurb it in the inside alongside, Jerry Stahl, which blew my mind. But, she credits me as like nipple clamps. So what the actual fuck, So when I actually read from my first book, it's the second, this is the second or third book I published, called The Death Jazz. And it's a kind of a multi-genre hybrid prose and poetry thing. And it was actually Ellen Mabey and Richard Modiano, my heart, from Beyond Baroque.
Hmm.
um, they kind of encouraged me to publish this thing, and then Ellen maybe sold it at Beyond Baroque. So I'm just had
Oh, that's
the,
amazing.
the privilege,
Yeah.
right? And it's just
Big
like
heart out.
just
Hmm.
incredible people. And so yeah, I've read there, you've read there, Iris, Suzanne Lemus, and Patti Smith, right? So and also that one of the poems that I read, and when I was up, I got up there finally, and I said, okay, I'm Alex Johnson, and I'm going to read the poem from the Death Jazz. And Renee calls me nipple clamps. I have still, and Iris was just cracking up. She's like, I was like, and she's like, whatever, you know. So anyway, I was thinking, hmm, one of the poems, the first poem called Overture, was very influenced by Charles Bukowski,
Mm.
and like last year, I think it was the Prime, it was a Prime Deluxe edition, which was a kind of the this German publisher named Newington Blue. They've done this several editions of guy named Catfish McDarris, right? And Jack Mitchelline sent him several poems and also some poems that by Bukowski.
Okay.
And basically just, I don't know why he did, but they were friends. And Catfish just published them, and it became. And initially, Jack Michelin was like, what the hell are you doing, man?" But but they resolved their differences, and so Newington Blue has republished it, a couple
Oh.
of times. And last
Mhm.
year they published it again, and Catfish brought me on. So I'm in a
Oh,
chapbook with
congrats. That's
Bukowski.
awesome.
Thank
Yeah.
you. And
Jesus.
and
That's
it's just
heady
right,
company.
right. It's
Yeah.
heady, and Jack Michelin and Neely Cherkovsky. And I
Yeah.
tried, actually, ironically, I tried to get during his rest in peace, Neely Cherkovsky to read the Death Jazz, and it was like he was real grumpy about it. So I was like, but posthumously, I'm in a book with him. So
There you go.
and
That's pretty cool. That's
and
badass.
we're gonna talk about now. I I think Exene because
Okay.
because beyond Baroque, Iris, Ellen, Richard, and Kara Morrison is another friend of mine and contributor. And but it's always for me, it's always been about, like X
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
how their music was so influential for my writing, and
Hmm.
their being
Hmm.
kind of, soaked in the kind of noir, gritty, like
Yeah.
it sort of reminds me of, I mean, their songwriting is just, like Lou Reed and Velvet
Hmm.
Underground, and
Hmm.
and it's
Yeah.
it's it's
Yeah.
so Burroughsian, it's so noir, it's so Raymond Chandler, it's so
Yeah. Yeah.
John Ricci, right?
Yeah. There was also something, especially when they started moving into things like their cover of Fourth of July
Yes,
or See How We Are, particularly.
right.
I started getting Steinbeck from them.
Yeah,
And I just loved like that sort of dusty roads,
right.
forgotten, downtrodden lives
Yeah,
vibe, where it felt like they kind of moved out of the bar and
yeah,
they moved into, like a rundown trailer home somewhere in Santa Fe that
yes.
and they were not making it. And I was just I love that I love the vibe. I love the just the pink sunset deserty vibe of
I
this.
love the specificity. I love the specificity.
Mhm.
I think, is that a writing exercise you do ever where you like take like, yeah, I mean, you're a writer. I mean, even if
Mhm.
I knew nothing else about you, and if I just met you, you just like the concrete thing. If I had one piece of advice for anybody who aspires
Yeah.
to write, I would say, okay, what William Carlos Williams said, no ideas but in things. Okay.
Hmm.
And T.S.
Hmm.
Eliot, objective correlative. Okay. If you have an emotion, you're a writer, don't say, I was really depressed the other day.
Yep. Yep.
Give us an image, give us
Yep.
like,
You're hitting it. You're hitting it. Yeah.
like Williams,
Hmm.
like,
Yeah.
so much depends on a red wheelbarrow
Hmm.
glazed with
Hmm.
rainwater besides the white chickens, right?
100%. There is a quote which has been like a mantra for me because when I'm working with writers at these retreats, I work very heavily from a place of context. It's
Hmm.
something that I hammer on throughout our time
Yeah.
in a gentle way. I'm not like screaming, but like, contextualizing your writing
Yes.
so that, making sure you are so immersed in the character's past and the character's mindset that when the world comes to us through them,
Right.
we don't have to know what they've been through. The tonality is there. And
Yes.
and I always reference a quote by a wonderful writer named Anne Enright. And what
Mm.
she said was, all description is an opinion of the world. And
Interesting.
I
Interesting.
I refer to that all the time.
Yeah.
We do one of the generative exercises we do, which pertains to context, but it pertains to setting,
Hmm.
it's a simple one, but it's so illustrative. And I can talk for a second about where looking back on my life when I was a little kid, where the notion of context as a writing tool came from, because it came from a dark theater at the movies. So I mean, that was influential to me.
Right.
You know, writing and reading is how I began to move into a storytelling place. Movies was really the thing that told stories to me. It was who read to me.
Yeah.
Movies read to me. So those two things are so inextricably linked. But the one of the genres I work through with people is simply describe the room that you're in. Just
Hmm.
simply describe it. Don't bring in anything. Don't reference yourself. Don't talk about I feel. Don't talk
Right.
about I remember.
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
Just simply describe the physical space. These come on cards that I'll pass out to people to start off that day's generative session. One person gets a different card. And on that card, it'll say something like, same thing, describe the room. You have been here before. And the
Ooh.
last time you were here, you got horrible, horrible news, a horrible diagnosis, the death of a friend. That happened as you were sitting in this room you were in now. Don't talk about it. Just simply physically describe the room. And then when everybody reads, and that person reads, everybody else is like, what fucking room are you talking about?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
everybody else will say that, if we're talking about, say,
Yeah.
the salon at the retreat, at the Bordeaux Chateau, it's sun filled,
Right.
it's old France, it's gorgeous. And then one person
Right.
is, it's dark, it's gloomy, it's
Yeah.
claustrophobic. And
Yeah.
then we talk about what happened there. And we
Yeah.
talk about the fact what happened is context.
Yes.
The context of the point of view that is receiving this room and relaying it to us, the reader, is not stated as to why it's like that, but
Yeah.
it's palpable. Everybody knows there's something wrong. That's contextualized writing. And that's everybody's sort of entry point into that concept. And for me, the entry point into context was a film, because my misspent wayward youth, to just like give a very short story that I give to all writers when retreats begin,
Hmm.
introducing context. When I was a little kid, growing up outside the city of Chicago, I would tell my parents, yeah, yeah, it's a Saturday. I'm going to grab my bike. I'm going to meet some friends. We're going to ride around. And they're like, oh, whatever, because that's how I was raised. And so I would grab my bike, I'd ride it into town, lock it up, get on a train, and take the train into the Loop, which was essentially the Deuce in New
Hmm.
York at that time. It was seedy, it was dangerous, it was unhealthy for any child of, say, 11 years old to be down there. And what I would do is I would wander into every bookstore, which were basically head shops with,
Mm.
lots of books, lots of
Nice.
paperbacks, lots of magazines, lots of porn, lots of blacklight posters.
Nice.
I'd wander into all of those. And then I'd wander into every single R-rated film I could find,
Nice.
every single one. So if anybody listening wants to play me in a game of what are the top five blaxploitation theme songs, and you cannot use Shaft and you cannot use Superfly,
Yeah.
reach out, we'll go. But I would also see every martial arts film that I could get my hands on. I was
Y-
hooked
You
on
know,
them.
Quentin Tarantino has extremely similar story.
He does. I've got my feelings about him.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's a blender
Uh-huh.
of other better stories, and I'm not that enamored of him or of his dialogue. The only film I enjoyed was Kill Bill, and that was only because I got to spot the references.
Oh, yeah.
I knew what films he was pulling from, but
Right.
I'm not a huge fan. Um, but so I snuck into one theater one day, and I saw Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon
Oh, nice.
as the only child in this crowded R-rated film that was packed with screaming people. And I was having my mind blown, absolutely blown by what I was seeing on the screen. He was inhuman. I mean, it was just phenomenal. And there were, in this packed theater, there were two older guys behind me who were just loving the film, but also hysterical over the fact that there's a child in front of them by himself watching this movie who clearly doesn't live here or belong here, or what are you doing here? So when the movie's over, the theater's starting to empty, and they kind of lean forward and they were like, hey, little brother, what'd you think? And so I'm sure I just rambled on about how amazing that was. And they said, yeah, it's too bad he's dead.
Oh,
And I was
no.
like, what?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, yeah, he died some time ago. They just keep rebooking the film because it always sells out and everybody
Wow.
loves it. But yeah, he's gone. And then they left and the theater's empty. And I'm just sitting there, this child. And because you could do this at that time, I just sat through it again. Except that time, every time he did something, in my head, what I heard was, he can't do that anymore. That's the last time he'll do that. He's gone. And when the credits rolled and the
Yeah.
screen went dark, it was a different kind of dark. So when I talk to writers about looking back on that, what had happened, what I tell them is, so what changed? Same film, same story, same script, same shots, same
Right.
fight scenes, same everything. The only thing that changed was me because I received it differently once I had that context. That has been a lifetime lesson for me with writing. And I use that to help guide writers in embodying their writing with the context. It opens up things, it gets around writer's block, it allows the plot to progress. Contextualizing it is how we work.
That's amazing. Yeah, thank you. And I'm gonna like refrain from, talking about John Shirley. I mean, for once I'm just gonna say, okay, you talk about John Shirley endlessly because he gave you that the Baudelaire of our time blurb, which is
Mhm.
like still blowing my mind. But I'm like, yeah, so I just got that out anyway. Sorry, I couldn't help it. I was like, yeah, John Shirley, John Shirley with the crow, man. But yes, so I was gonna say, well, one
Mhm.
of my kind of like bête noirs, my like I have this. I've been an editor. I've done so many books, and I was edited for like a year for this like off like fringe, you know, super fringe horror publisher that basically wound up kind of like you know, deleting me and
Mm.
starting a harassment and defamation
Oh,
campaign
wow.
against me, which lasted
Yikes.
like more than a decade. It was just
Oh my
horrible.
God.
And there
That
was
is
like
horrible. I'm so sorry you
super,
went through that.
thank you. They were like super right-wing assholes. And
Oh,
so
say no more.
yeah, but yeah, man. But one thing I did really learn from that is I
Mhm.
I I had actually, among the books that I had previously, edited was like Scene Lessons with Tom Sullivan, which is a New York Times best-selling, bestseller. And
Mhm.
I wrote that with him and it was blurred by, Betty White, right? So I had a few chops, right?
Godhead. Godhead.
Right, yes, just Betty White, rest in peace. And I was like working with so I just always like to keep my hand in. So I had to move back from LA. I was teaching college and composition and I couldn't get another job. So it's like, oh well, move back to Sacramento. And I was sort of like kicking myself. So I just kept, I was like, oh, I got to keep my hand in, whatever. So any opportunity that came along, and so these people from this sub, whatever, you know, horror press, they were like grooming me and reaching out to me and say, why don't you come on board with us? I didn't realize what was, had I but known, that's another like
Right.
writing, like, had I but known. Anyway, it's oh my God, I could, so that's another one. But so don't write for you kidlings out there, do not write had I but known. It's just ugh, don't
Right.
do that.
It's like opening your book with a dream.
Yes,
Hey
exactly.
everybody. It's
Yeah,
if it
it
works,
was
it
just
works,
a
but you know
dream.
what? Everybody does it.
If
So
you're
maybe
if
don't
you're
be
if you're
everybody.
if your name isn't literally Franz fucking Kafka, do not refrain, abstain. Um,
Reframe.
yes. And so um I can't tell you how many stories I read where it's sort of like you cannot I'll say I'll just try to I'll generate an example. So this is like people who may be taking some writing workshops and they took them literally and they don't have a sense of proportion or context. So
Mhm.
the entire paragraph is filled with extraneous detail that brings you like this sort of jerks you back and forth in time and leads you onto these all
Yeah.
these dead ends. I'll just make one up. So James took the what kind of Derwent graphic um, uh, you know drawing pencil in his right hand, his um, fine-boned fingers caressing the tip in a sexual way. I didn't know. I don't anyway. And prepared, looking at the wall, which was the whatever the cracked plaster of his the walls of his 1930s uh, 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 era boarding house located in South Pasadena, California,
Hmm.
and he looked up at the calendar. It was it was
Oh, good touch. Good touch.
September of
Hmm.
1998. Ah, he said, September is almost over. And then have some sort of contemporary like, and then he glanced at the cover of the Los Angeles Times,
There you
crumpled
go.
up in the corner, reached for a whatever, Dunhill cigarette, wished he didn't smoke. It was a bad habit. And so they've learned that above all else, if you don't if you don't put in a lot of concrete specifics,
Hmm.
that people will kick you out of the workshop. And and
Right.
and you know, so for me, I I I always when I see things like that,
Uh-oh.
it just makes
Oh, there
me
you are. Yeah.
crazy. It makes me crazy. And so
Yes.
I would
Yes.
just like
Yes.
take a paragraph like that and go, um, it doesn't, we assume that he used some sort of implement to write. We don't even need to, what
Hmm.
did he write? For
Yeah.
fuck's sakes. Okay, let's just say, is it necessary to say he wrote? Put it in italics. Put it in italics. Indirect, like fucking discourse, man. Like, who was a master of this? Ray Bradbury.
Oh,
Okay.
brilliant writer. Astonishing writer.
Yeah.
Plain spoken.
Right.
Astonishing writer. Just gorgeous.
Yeah.
King. The last sentences of the novella The Body,
Hmm.
it's heartbreaking, and it's not, you look at it, it's not florid, it's not lyrical, it's not fancy, it's not overstuffed with simile and metaphor and look at me and
Right.
pyrotechnics. It's just simply, I don't have friends like that anymore, God does anyone.
Yeah.
Each of those words are simple. They are just simply short and spare.
Yeah.
And the impact is undeniable. Yes, 100%. Like the sort of noirish crime writer Andrew Vox, when he was still alive, he wrote
Yeah.
this
He
he wrote this
was we
short
were
novella called
actually
Shella.
we were
Gorgeous.
we were actually friends back in the early Facebooks.
Okay. I mean, I vividly remember the opening of his novella Shella, which was about essentially a hitman.
Yeah.
And you could have gone into amazing detail and like put the blood squibs all over the page and described the rat. All he said
Hmm.
was he was talking about a kill that he had done.
Yeah.
All he says is, I stopped his heart, comma, left him there.
Yeah.
I read that sentence, I put the book down and I'm like, are you kidding?
Yeah.
That is so good.
Yeah.
And it's nothing. It's spare to the bone.
Yeah.
It makes Elroy look wordy. It was so good.
I love that.
I was just like I was just I mean the popular stereotypes of literary fiction, which is where I get categorized, literary fiction slash historical. Those are what my books are.
Hmm.
Um, the cliche of literary fiction is that the writing is beautiful and the plotting and the pacing just float like a leaf on the wind, going nowhere. It just meanders around, and it's all about just observational navel gazing. And then genre fiction, horror, thrillers, techno thrillers, romance, anything you want. the writing is pedestrian at best, but the plot moves like lightning. And I'm like, well, so isn't the goal then being kind of in the middle? Like
Yeah,
just try to make the writing nice, but ultimately, what is our job? Whether our job is to hopefully move writers, touch them, maybe help
yeah.
them see a little bit of themselves in the text, but at the same time, our job is, would you like to turn a page? You would? Good.
Yeah,
Job
good.
done.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
it. That's it. It's a lot of time that we spend in retreats, we spend demystifying writing. We have a game that I open up retreats with called Pass It, where by the end of it, it's just fun and everybody's participating and talking and goofing on each other.
yeah.
And by the end of it, I'm like, all right, do you guys understand what you just did? You
Right.
created an entire story and then you revised it.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
that's writing. Like, can we just demystify it?
Right.
Because then
Exactly.
it won't be as scary, it won't be as intimidating.
I love that. I love that. And actually, one of my writing, teachers, I never like, I took like one or two writing workshops in my life, and one of
Mhm.
them was at World Horror Convention in 1995, which was one of like
Mhm.
two um, conventions that I ever attended. And that was actually
Mhm.
when I met for the first time my dear friend Caitlin R. Kiernan in person, and we've been like, buds ever since. Uh, and so shout out to Caitlin. And also,
Mm.
if anybody thinks that, genre fiction, science fiction, fantasy,
Mhm.
whatever,
Mhm.
it's not literature, they've never read Caitlin R. Kiernan. Silk, the Daughter of Hounds, gets it's it's and it's highly readable. It's highly
Yeah.
readable.
Yeah.
It's not pretentious at all. It's very down to earth. It's funny as hell. Um, but so yeah, so I did I was I actually interviewed Poppy Z. Bright, and but before that, I had this writing workshop with the guy with he was named Ron D, and he is, I don't know, he's working as a Walgreens cashier right now, Karma, but he was drunk off his ass, and he was really angry at me, and and
Mm.
he reamed me out, in front of this entire room, like everybody was looking at me. It was like, oh, I'm glad I'm not that guy. And he was like, "What's this word? Variegated? What's that word? Did you make that up?" And I was like,
No.
do you garden at
It's a
all? Do
word.
you ever
Right.
like read
Exactly.
H.P. Lovecraft or just any,
Mm.
have you do you own a dictionary? And I'm thinking all these things. He was very hostile, and he was like,
Yeah.
if I was an
Yeah.
editor and I got this for a magazine, I would just throw the story across the room. And I was thinking, so you're drunk, you're hostile, and you're showing your ignorance in front of an entire group of aspiring writers, and you've published with Del Abyss alongside Kathy Koja. What
Right.
let's
Right.
like, you know, what the hell, man?
I
And
know. I know. I mean, it at the end of the day, writers who are looking to start something, you know, what we're looking for truly is permission.
yeah,
That permission, and sometimes I think maybe we look in the wrong places. We're looking to gatekeepers,
yeah,
literary agent, give me permission to believe in this story.
yeah,
Publisher, give me permission. But we really should be looking at ourselves and each other.
yeah,
If you read widely, if you read across genres, if you
right,
read science fiction, if you read horror,
right,
if you read romance, I had a
sure,
friend who published with Harlequin.
okay,
If you read just all the various structures out there, all
yeah,
the different ways that people have told stories, you know, you could be forgiven for perhaps stepping away like, well, wow, there's a lot that's a dizzying array. What do I do?
hmm,
That's permission. The way that you maybe want to structure your story, it's okay.
yeah,
Structure your story that way. There's
right,
room. Give yourself permission to tell your story and give yourself permission to say to yourself that my story is worth telling.
yeah,
Like, so that's why, I mean, I have seen writing workshops where people are so shut down by
yeah,
what's coming at them that they
yeah,
stop writing.
yeah,
That's a crime. That's a crime. That
yeah.
voice is now lost to all of us.
It
And
is a
that's not
crime.
fair. It's not fair. I saw somebody destroyed in a workshop, not because of the story, but because of the fact that the story tracked her life and displayed a decision that she made, and people were disturbed by the decision. And I was sitting there like, okay, you guys, I'm no expert. I don't think of myself as an expert in writing
Right,
now. I mean, I lead retreats and I hope to work with
right.
people. And there's some things that I know have worked for me over the years of being published. But, I'm not some sage Shaolin master of writing. But even then, I could see what was happening. I'm like, none of you number one, you're all destructive and you're trying to like establish your bona fides for the instructors so that
Right,
they're impressed with you, which is not cool. But
right,
also, you're not helping her with her story. You're
right.
disapproving of her.
Her,
Like, why are you here?
right.
And I mean, and I think that in some ways unconsciously began my path to what I do now at retreats,
Hmm.
which is I will never let that atmosphere prevail. Never. It's awful.
Yeah. I had actually had a guy come to me. He's one of my um I mentees.
Hmm.
And I continue to, and by the way, this is in general, like I will take on, writing whatever, if you want some writing coaching from somebody who's been in the business for 30 years and
Hmm.
has, collaborated with, people like Sandy DeLuca and so, Tom Sullivan. Yeah, so hit me up and my rates are exceedingly reasonable. And also hit up David Rocklin, my guest here. So I think it's a win-win when people elevate each other, uh,
Yes. Yeah.
there's a lot of people in our business who are like so like want to be the brand and they want to be the, and no names mentioned, but they want to be like so to the point where within my field of,
Like the poster child.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I have some friends and actually contributors, but
Oh,
the reason I
I'm so
started,
sorry you froze.
oh
Oh,
yeah.
there we are. There we are.
Yeah, my own, the reason I started my own press is primarily because I wanted to have, full control over everything, and nobody will ever be able to gatekeep me,
Love that. I love
ever,
that.
ever again.
That's
So
that's punk, man. That's DIY. That's the
it,
ethos that
right.
that's what brought the punk world together was that ethos.
Exactly, exactly. And I always think of like, well, Iris Berry, right? She
Mhm.
shout out to Iris. She started Punk Hostage Press the same year that I started,
I love punk hostage.
right? Yeah, Punk Hostage is so badass, right?
Mhm.
And
So badass.
they're doing, I think they either just did or they're going to do a book that was like a tribute to Nicholas Ray, who made
Mm.
Rebel Without a Cause.
Hmm. Hmm.
And yeah, so Iris and I literally started the same year,
Okay. Okay.
and I mean publishing, that is,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then and so she's been a huge inspiration and like coming up from Nocturnicorn Books for Iris the Los Angeles poems. So
Badass.
it's my
Love that.
thank you so much. Poems. It's a brand new collection, and it's got like, yeah, a nice selection from Iris, including the Beat Motel and the
Hmm.
Garden of Allah, which is a song she wrote for, Ringling Sisters and Pleasant
Mm.
Gaiman, to sing,
Okay.
and a forward by Richard Modiano.
That's amazing.
You know what I mean?
That's a
Like,
that's a cavalcade of talent right there.
right? Yeah.
Love.
So,
I love.
right.
Yeah, I
Um,
love.
This is my heart, and we have a blurb from Ellen Mabey, a magnificent collection, Ellen Mabey. I was like, you're my heart, you're my heart. So, you know, uh, writers, editors, publishers, we sure can and do and should support one another's enterprises
Yeah.
because, you know, for the vast majority of people out there don't even know basic stuff, and
Mhm.
like Yeah, I'm always very, very shocked and surprised when, like Iris will say, "Thank you so much. It's like a dream come true. If this is a dream, I don't want to wake up. Pinch me. I'm dreaming." And it's like, "You're talking about my book?" And she's like, "Yeah, And it's like, well, she's actually more like kind of like throaty, and she sounds like her voice has been, like is basically whiskey and cigarettes. She's like
Yes, I was
she's
just going to say,
she walked
yeah.
out of noir. She's like
Hmm.
she's something
Yes.
she's and she okay, this is what she said about my writing. Like she I sent her a bunch of books that I published her in, and they're all anthologies. And she, instead of like pointing out that she's in all these books, that was the reason I sent them to her. She did a full like social media, you know, a shout out to me. She linked my Amazon author page to it, and she
Ooh,
wrote, Alex S. Johnson's writing is smart, funny, charming, and most of all, noir. And I'm like,
uh,
God bless
that
you,
gets no
Iris
better.
Berry. You
That
know what I
gets no
mean?
better. That's
It gets
awesome.
no better. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
for you, what are
Mhm.
some of those it gets no better moments as a writer?
Ooh, yeah. When I wrote my second novel, and all my novels are all very different from each other. What they have in common is that they kind of involve me excavating a life that's been lost and then just fictionalizing it and imagining myself into places I've never been, people I've never met, time frames that are not my time frame. Um, and it's almost a little bit like the Ian McEwan atonement approach,
Hmm.
where I wonder if this life went the way it should. Let me give this person the life that perhaps they should have had. And
Hmm.
so my stories seem to revolve around that idea of finding the lost thing and illuminating it again. The
Hmm.
second novel, which was called The Night Language, really began from the research I did for my first novel, which was
Hmm.
based in the very early age of photography.
Hmm.
Out of that, I was able to access a collection of photographs at the Getty that were taken by a woman named Julia Margaret Cameron, who was
I
one of the
know, I know her
earliest,
work.
okay,
Yeah,
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 so one of the earliest photographers in history and just extraordinary imagery. She was such a transgressive person because she was stepping into a man's world of
right.
science and art and the alchemy between them. And among her photos was a photo of a young Black boy, maybe 10 or 11 years old,
Hmm.
who looked just bereft,
Yeah.
just forlorn. And they had dressed him for this photo that she took in what a colonial British person in the mid to late 1800s would have considered an African person to look like.
Oh,
And it
wow.
was painful to watch. It was painful to see. But I was so taken with him
Hmm.
because even despite the sadness, there was like a defiance.
Yeah.
And as I finished up the first novel and that research and was looking at all those photos to try to decide which ones to sort of fictionally kind of depict in the first novel, The Luminist,
Hmm.
um, he was on my mind. So when the first novel became published and sold and did the whole book tour thing with it, which was really cool for somebody like me who did not come up MFA and didn't really move in writers circles. So suddenly I was in writers circles. I'm like, oh, this is really cool. Not
Yeah.
because of any accolades. It was really more like, oh, like there's a lot of people who sort of understand why I feel the way I feel.
Yeah.
And I really liked their company. But I came back to that photo and I'm like, I need to find out who this is. Like, who is this person? And what I learned was he is the son of the emperor of Abyssinia, now,
Oh,
of course,
wow.
Ethiopia, whose name was Tewedros. And Tewedros fancied himself a Christian um, sort of crusader in Abyssinia. And
Hmm.
he had written to the queen in England to say, send me weapons because I want to continue the crusades against the Muslim hordes
Oh, wow.
surrounding me. And so she sent a small delegation to essentially say, yeah, we're not doing that. We're not going to finance you like, murdering other countries. Not that she was some great citizen of the world. She was a
Right.
colonialist, but he was so incensed that he took the entire delegation hostage.
Oh,
And
wow.
Parliament promptly voted to invade. So England and its forces just swept through Abyssinia in a matter of days and just decimated everything. The emperor and his wife
Oh,
died.
oh my
They
God.
took this child, whose name was Alamayu, and
Hmm.
they brought him back to England, where he became a ward of Queen Victoria.
Oh, wow.
So, and he, in real life, he died around age 15 or 16. It was a pleurisy, but in my mind, it was loneliness and it was
Yeah.
heartbreak because he like was taken by the people who destroyed his country and forced to become essentially like a plaything, like a tchotchke in her collection of
Mhm.
tchotchkes.
Oh, no.
So in the novel, very unexpectedly, as I was kind of writing what I thought was going to be sort of a parental, like finding somebody who could kind of serve as a source of parental love for this very bereft boy,
Hmm.
that character turned into a younger Black man who was an orphan in London. And it became a love story between the two of them, like a love
Oh,
story taking place
wow.
in Queen Victoria's court in the later 1800s.
Oh,
And the
wow.
story became, what would you do for the love of your life? How far would you go to save them? And so that became that novel. And so when I did the book tour for that, the kill me now moments
Hmm.
were when people came up and said, one person came up and said, I kind of saw myself in this, which doesn't usually happen for me. And
Wow.
it made me ask myself, how does he know what he knows?
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, okay, I can die. I'm
Yeah,
good.
right. Yeah.
Stuff like that. Um, I don't pay a lot of attention to sales, I have to say. I don't pay attention to things like that. What I pay attention to is when people come up and say things like, I'm glad I read you. Like what I
Oh,
think I alluded to earlier. I'm different now
oh,
for
wow.
having read you. That's that's it. As far as I'm concerned, that's it. It gets no better. It just gets no better.
That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful.
And then with the retreats, it gets no better than when I see somebody have that moment where they just kind of look up and go, "Oh, oh, I think I see what tomorrow looks like." At
Wow.
that point, I'm like, "We're good.
We're good.
We're
Yeah.
good." It gets no better.
Yeah, because with writing, this sort of there's a kind of almost like a weird kind of a time, like I'm thinking of Fahrenheit 450, no, not but
Yep.
Slaughterhouse Five, where
I lost your sound. Oh
oh,
no,
oh,
our
okay.
connection is not terribly stable.
Oh, yes. Well,
Um,
that would be a wonderful metaphor for something.
there you
But
are. There you
yes,
are.
yes, here I am, and our connection has been reestablished. I'm Alex S. Johnson, aka Kandy Fontaine, and we were
Oh, it's
talking
very nice
about
to meet you. Have we been speaking?
yes, apparently so. And so I was just thinking of the of writing as a kind of I was thinking of Slaughterhouse Five and how
Hmm. Hmm.
the narrator becomes unstuck in time.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, there's something about writing which is kind of is literally time travel in ways that are not
Yes.
obvious because
Yes.
you can have the same words. Like as a writer, I just fucking hate my writing. Like, I'll write something and then I've seen it and I'll see all of the flaws in it.
Sure.
And the same book, okay, I'll give an example. Um, the Doom Hippies, right? The Doom Hippies, it's a collection which came out in 2015. I actually rewrote it several times, and it was originally a 25 copy chapbook. And anyway, and I decided to put it out myself. So this is my cover art,
Oh,
and
that's a good looking cover.
thank you.
Oh,
And
that's nice. I like that.
thank you so much. And for years, like I had a few fans. In fact, there were a couple of people in England. One of them bought the book and they had it lying around their coffee table.
Hmm.
And a friend of theirs picked it up and was like, "What's this?" Oh, it's the Doom movies. It's my friend in California. He said, "Oh, can I borrow it?" And he said, "Yeah." And he stole it. And so the guy had to,
Yep.
um, you know, buy another one for me. I was like, yeah, because like Lemmy would say, I don't care, how you listen to it, steal it, just
Right?
I want you to hear
Yes.
I want you to hear the songs, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So over
Yeah.
the years, I've had people, uh, like I've had fans from different parts of the world who will just spontaneously like say, I encountered whatever Jason X Death Moon or whatever, and it's like it's I named my dog after it or something, or it's my, internet handle or something. I was like, whoa, thank you,
What
man.
is that a short story that jumps off of Jason
No,
X face?
it's a canonical New Line Cinema spin-off novel. I mean, it's literally like
Oh,
it's the real
okay.
it's
Oh, wow.
canon, yeah.
That's
And
amazing because I mean Jason X, I'm sorry, unfairly maligned. That movie's
unfairly
hysterical.
maligned. Yeah, it is.
Unfairly maligned.
And
It's so it's what the series should have been,
should
which
have
is, you
been
know what?
all along.
I'm sorry, are we earthbound by
Right,
certain
exactly.
conventions?
Certain conventions, yeah.
You know what? Just throw her into liquid oxygen and freeze her face off. It's
Exactly.
fine.
Exactly. And it
Go
was
crazy.
like one of the greatest, most mind-blowing experiences of my life. So I'm a huge, huge, huge fan of Pat Cadigan. Pat
Hmm.
Cadigan, I mean, she's like won, I don't know how many awards. She's won the Hugo Award. She's won the Nebula Award. She's considered to be the queen of cyberpunk. Yeah.
Okay.
And, she wrote the first spin-off. And then I was like, I had an in with the publisher. It was an old friend
Hmm.
of mine. And so I got kind of like it was a little bit of
That's really
nepotism,
cool.
Yeah.
That
So
I don't care. That's
you know
really
what I mean?
cool. That's
And
cool.
thank you. And
Yeah.
they asked me, who would you recommend to bring on board? Well, I said, well, Poppy Sebright, if you can get her. Nancy Kilpatrick would love to do it. Krista Faust, And so they all showed up, and except for Poppy said, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna write I mean, if you give me $20,000 and I write it under a pseudonym, I don't want to be, I have a brand.
Hmm.
But anyway, so I brought Krista Faust on board with it,
Yeah.
who's it's a really lovely person, and the so the initial premise, as you know from the movie, but what Pat Cadigan did, so she's very funny. She's really, really funny, and a lot of humor in her books, which just I think the the initial reviews of her book were just like really, really terrible because I don't think people
Hmm.
understood. She brought in references to Nietzsche,
Hmm.
and she brought in, sort of, like Milton and stuff, and
Okay.
so I was purely, purely to just like troll the entire, including Jason X Death Moon and Jason X itself, to
Hmm.
troll Jason X because it's all satire. And
Yes.
so she had a moment in Jason X, the novel, where that explained how we got the hyperdrive, which is one of those like science fiction kind of mythologies where, like to overcome the faster than light speed,
Hmm. Hmm.
paradox, which,
Right.
The late great Harlan Ellison said, said it was sort of like the and then afterwards thing where, you get to like, the cliffhanger, right? And then they're literally on the cliff, and then afterwards, so
Right.
so,
Right.
so
My
how,
favorite explanation in storytelling
yeah,
for the whole, like, oh, how do you get across the universe in 2 seconds? I think is going to always be Event Horizon,
Event Horizon,
where Sam Neill is doing the lecture and he basically takes the centerfold
yeah,
and basically uses a centerfold and a pencil to establish how you collapse
yes,
essentially a wormhole and just
right,
simply appear across. I'm like, you know what? Other people may say, I don't that's not hard science. I'm like, that is so entertaining.
yeah,
I'm
right.
in. I'm in. I'm
And,
in. Take me
yeah,
to hell, Sam.
exactly.
Sam Neill.
Okay, so in so many ways. So what I was thinking is that he was the Antichrist too.
Yes.
Coincidence?
Where we're going, we don't need eyes to
Yeah, I
see.
see. Yes.
Oh,
Ah,
so
yeah. And it's
so good.
also it's basically the King in Yellow.
Yes, it is.
Right.
It
Yeah.
100% is. Yeah. I mean,
100%.
you fold it in like old gods. I mean, that, you know, okay. Paul W.S. Anderson's
Yeah.
oeuvre, not my favorite thing.
Right.
I don't necessarily need to see Matrix slow-mo bullet ducking that many times with zombies, but
Yeah.
Event Horizon,
Yeah.
I stand for Event Horizon.
The
That's
way
cosmic horror.
this is how Pat Cadigan solves problems because it was work for hire. We were
Mhm.
not paid a lot of money. We were paid
Okay.
enough for like 4 months rent, basically. And
Okay.
so Pat is also just very economical. She's very funny. She's very funny. And I suspect she's high often because this was how she solved the problem of the faster than light speed paradox.
Hmm.
Because the closer you get to the speed of light, the closer you get to the to the rate of relativity, so you get critical mass. So everything is like the vehicle you're traveling with would weigh impossible,
Hmm.
it would be just like
Yes.
it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So
It doesn't. But you know what? It's joyful anyway. I mean,
yeah,
we were talking before this started that we are, contemporaries in terms of probably some of our influences of things we watched.
yeah,
Saturday afternoons on TV
yeah,
were spent watching black and white sci-fi films where the scientific explanation for why are the ants in the desert gigantic
yeah.
was, well, 9 years ago they did a nuclear bomb here and now they're 10 feet long. And you're like, okay, I'm in.
Okay,
Like
yeah,
that's it. That's it. Now show me, as the ants are invading LA, get the generals in a room and
okay,
show them some home video, some
right,
home movie footage of ants in like an ant farm.
yeah,
Like, yes, that's all the explanation I need. I'm fine. That was storytelling to me. Growing up, that's
right.
how I received those stories was if I'm captivated, I'm in. I'm in.
There's a great line in a movie that I enjoyed called "Thank You for Smoking."
Oh, sure. Aaron
Right?
Eckhart. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and there was one line where it was I think it involved who's that he was a very popular actor back in the 90s, and then he had a sort of a underage scandal or whatever, the guy
Um,
but then he robbed something or other. He
oh, Rob Lowe.
Rob Lowe, yeah,
Yeah.
he's in the
Yeah.
movie, and there's a line like so he's going on about he has this fantasy about like how we would sell cigarettes and you'd have like this couple they're making love in in space or something as a sort of a film what do you call it a sort of uh when you insert a kind of an ad, like a little sort of a
Oh,
reference,
like a product plug.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
exactly, like a product plug. And he said, "Well, just insert a line like, oh yeah," and then they invented the anti-gravity device, and then you know what I mean. So just
It's
to
fine.
tie up
Yeah.
loose ends, Pat Cadigan, her explanation for the hyperdrive was how we got the hyperdrive. Well, there's got these hyper intelligent beings from another dimension or another planetary system. They traded us the hyperdrive engine for six human cadavers and a shit ton of cannabis dwarf weed.
Oh, wow. So somebody got really high and reread the story of how like white people bought Manhattan and went, okay, let me
Yes.
just up this. Let me
Well,
just up this to a hyperdrive. That's awesome.
I mean,
That's amazing.
it's exactly what happened,
Perfect. That's perfect.
and there's all these little throwaway
Bring
things
in the Deus Ex Machina.
right
Why not?
with Pat. It blink and you miss it, but that's exactly the kind of thing I'm reading, going, holy fucking shit. She
Mhm.
did that. It's amazing. It's funny. Does anybody else notice that?
Hmm.
it's sort of like the
Hmm.
lines in Nabokov, where he's all of a sudden in Lolita, there's a sentence where, and then the hermaphrodite tumbled down the staircase, etc. It's like,
Hmm.
and do you see that? The
Yeah, I know. Those are
you,
always fun
you know
when
what
you
I
like
mean?
go maybe a page ahead and you're like, wait, what? Wait, what did he just say?
Yes.
That's awesome. That's
I,
awesome.
I mean, I gotta, oh, which sort of reminds me, when they interviewed Poppy Billy for the Death Realm magazine, and I said, there's some jokes in here. This is a funny shit in here, like when one of the characters, the cannibalistic serial killer, is in love, and one of them, or I think is the New Orleans character who's supposed to, like based on Jeffrey Dahmer, basically. Like these are her protagonists. These are the your
Mhm.
point of view characters,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And orders a beer and is saying, "Yeah, that's a cold head of beer. That's a cold head of beer." And I was like, "I see what you did there." And I
Yeah.
said,
Subtle but
"Poppy,
fun.
Poppy,
Subtle but fun.
that is fucking hilarious." And she said,
Hmm.
"The only people who get the jokes in Exquisite Corpse are perverts."
Right. Which is a way of saying so they will never identify themselves publicly. And that's awesome.
Publicly. Yeah,
That's funny.
it was so funny because there was a guy, and when Lost Souls came out, to general, I mean, which was so revolutionary that I don't think that people were prepared at all, except for those of us who'd read Poppy and Cemetery Dance magazine and were like,
Hmm.
and had read Swamp
Oh
Fetus.
God. I remember
And,
that.
we were just like, yeah, bring it, bring it.
Hmm.
Oh, Lost Souls. Oh, it's so transgressive. It's just like wonderful. Just, you got these vampires, like these incestuous vampires, and that's just like the tip of the iceberg, right?
Hmm.
It's incestuous
Yeah.
vampire clan.
Yeah.
But pe people were horrified by that book, but they're sort of like, they're not even like they're vampires. So why are you imposing human
Hmm.
morality on them?
Yeah.
They're
It's
another
like watching
species.
people argue about the racial characteristics of Ariel the mermaid. It's like, do you understand
Do you
you're talking
understand?
about a character that's not real? Like,
Also,
this is where your
also,
energy's going?
also, like nobody like talks about the fact that Hans Christian Andersen was super gay, you know, and it was basically like the whole story was kind of a love poem, you know,
Hmm. Hmm.
to
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Or like the
but
Ernest Thesiger character in Bride of Frankenstein. It's like,
right, yeah,
it's fun to see that character through modern eyes and say, oh, that's
yeah.
what they were doing. Like,
Yeah,
that's
right. Yeah, they were
fascinating.
fascinating. It really is.
Yeah.
So Lost Souls came out. Something T. Liam McDonald or something like that. Very Irish name, like in Cemetery Dance magazine. Wrote a scathing review of Lost Souls. Basically, enough clove cigarettes to choke Peter Murphy, and why does Poppy Z. Bright insist on, shoving homosexuals down our throat?
Oh, God.
And
Jesus. All
I
right.
was like, and Poppy's retort was, um, um, all you have to do is close your mouth, and they won't get in.
That's funny. That's funny. That's fantastic. I will be using that, possibly with attribution, but I will be using that. So that's amazing.
That is so that there was so much like blatant homophobia and just like
Mhm.
hysteria around Poppy in the 90s, which is exactly what made their writing like catnip. I mean, it was just like heroin. It was just like
Right.
those of us who were, alphabets and in various stages of closetness, but it didn't really matter. We were like this. One of us wrote a book and it's
Celebrate it.
published,
Right.
it's out there. It's have you read? I would go to the bookstore and I would hear people talking about it,
Wow.
just like
Mhm.
randoms, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I got to meet this person. I got to meet this
Hmm.
person. Well, it's been a,
Yeah.
a, a
Yeah.
collaboration that's lasted,
I
since
love that.
'94. It's mean. It's
That
like,
I love that writing does that. It brings people together. It binds
yeah,
us. It
yeah,
inspires each other. I mean, that's the best of writing. It's, I mean, I hear people say, "Oh, writing is competitive." There's room for every story, and so there's got to be room for love and support of every story. Like it shouldn't be as hard
right.
as I think sometimes people can make it.
Another thing that bothers me a lot is, well, I think maybe cancel culture is over. Is that there was a whole period for about 2 or 3 years, and I was on a lot of Reddit groups. I was on a lot of mostly Reddit, but um, where and also X, Twitter. It seems like people were outraged that books existed, stories existed, in which the point of view character was not ethically pure as the driven
Hmm.
snow. And
Hmm.
and what I
Yeah.
mean by that is that so people, because of Dennis Cooper, because of William S. Burroughs, because of Poppy Bright, because of you know, some of my other friends like Caitlin R. Kiernan, who just like broke the door down and said, we're here, we're queer, we're not gonna take this shit anymore. It allowed an entire generation to say, hey, I got a story to tell. I can
Hmm.
I can do this.
Hmm.
This is one of my recent books. I I would love to send it to you, and maybe you could
Oh,
say
that'd be
something
fantastic.
about it, if you do
Ooh,
that kind of thing.
I
Um,
do that
it-
kind of thing.
it's called Drag Cola and Other Stories,
Okay. Yeah,
and
I
it
would
is
be honored to.
oh my gosh, yeah. So we really need some blurbage, and it's just
Okay. I'm on it.
fantastic. It's like
Yeah.
multi-genre stories. It's basically inspired by um, you know, what do I say? Kathy Acker, Kate Kiernan, Robbie D. Howard, William S. Burroughs, Poppy Z. Brett, Clive Barker, and Bram Stoker. And it was like, started out,
That's
it was like, I
formidable.
was sort of going, I started saying out loud, Dracula, Dracula. I was like, Drag Cola. Has anybody ever, had a fizzy vampire character before who's also a drag queen in liminal space, who's part cyborg? And I got my collaborator Michael Kobe to work with me, and this I think it was like maybe a month at most.
Wow.
Continues
Oh, I send it, send it. I am
brides
primed
of
and
drag
ready.
cola,
That's funny. That's
you
funny.
know,
And
taste
anything that contains a hammer shout out, I'm on board.
taste taste the fizz of drag cola,
Oh, you're killing me right now.
Okay.
Do you go through the whole Hammer canon? Like anything Terrence Fisher directed, you're like,
We
I'm going
yes,
to.
yes, 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 we are. In fact, we just finished up Satanic Rites of Dracula, and we're writing an entire novel.
Okay,
So,
okay.
but
What are the two looniest Hammer films that I love dearly to this day? Ready?
ready.
Number one, The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires,
Okay,
because
because
mashup
right.
of
And
Hammer
and
horror
and it
and
was
Shaw
like
Brothers
Run
martial
Run
arts.
Run Shaw, right?
Run Run Shaw. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Peter Cushing and David Chang, who
nice.
should never exist in the same space, and yet they did. And then some guy who looks like someone's accountant who plays Dracula. Like,
Nice.
fine. Um, and then of course, like speaking of horror and just influences on me in terms of just the nightmares I had, but how much I loved it so much.
Mhm.
The Lost Continent,
Okay,
which is
I've not seen that, but
oh,
is that
batshit crazy.
is that H.
I,
Rider Haggard, or is it
it was based on a Dennis Wheatley book.
oh, Dennis Wheatley, who
So,
wrote To the Devil a
mhm,
Daughter, and
right.
basically,
To the Devil a Daughter. Right.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah. And I
yeah,
think The Devil Rides Out. I
The
think he
Devil
wrote.
Rides Out, which
Um,
yeah,
it's it, it it needs to be seen. to be believed, but
Okay.
it's so good. It's so good. And bonus, the theme song is written by a lounge jazz combo out of England called the Peddlers. It's the theme of Lost Continent, and it swings. I can't explain it
That
any better.
sounds groovy, baby.
It's fantastic. It's
Yeah.
just fantastic.
I,
Yeah.
I actually had the opportunity to interview Caroline Munro in person
Oh,
in London,
goddess,
in London,
goddess.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man,
Mm-hmm.
she was so nice.
Yeah.
And so like she was very, very friendly.
Mm-hmm.
My friend Jay Slater in London, who actually came on, brought me on board with New Line Cinema, and he was the one who introduced me to Caroline Munro.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was visiting him in London, in Surrey, actually. And I very neurodivergent. I can't tell, I get lost in my own backyard. And I was sort of like, here I am in London and I'm jet lagged and, you know, I'm trying to find him and I can't find him. And so I sort of, I turn around, I walked like, 5 miles or so. I turn around, I go back to my hotel. I get this call. It's like hey, it's Jay Boy. It's like, what's up, Jay? It's like you're a foreigner. You couldn't find me. That's okay. Guess what? You're having tea with Caroline Munro tomorrow, matey. And I'm like, oh yeah. And I was like, immediately, my prospects were, kind of like glorious.
Oh, yeah.
It's like I
Things
was
are
like,
looking up. Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
just about to just crash and have a couple of
Mm-hmm.
pints and just watch BBC Two and just, I was feeling very sorry for myself. It was like I was immediately, so I call for, 7 a.m. wake up call. I was like, holy shit, it's Caroline Munro. So I take was the Paddington station to Baker Street. And I was like, she lives on Baker Street. Holy shit, right?
That's
How
amazing.
how mythical is that, right? It's sort of like being in an episode of Doctor Who or something. Like, oh wow, oh, here I am on Baker Street. And he said, she's great. Just buy her some tea. She'll be fine. And I mean, it's like, you know, I was like, are you sure it's Carolyn Monroe? And she says, don't worry about it. So I'm sitting there, and I sat down, and then the door opens, and it's Caroline Munro, right? And she's pushing a pram. And of course, I immediately think of Monty Python. She's pushing an empty pram. And it's still to this day, I don't know who was occupying the pram.
Oh, I was going to assume like a small dog.
Like a small, yes,
She seems like in her older years she would just have a small dog in a
have a
pram.
small dog, but this is
Hmm.
actually a child. Yeah. And
Oh, okay.
so she was pushing a pram. And then she said, are you Alex Johnson? I said, yes. It's like, lovely to meet you. I'm Carolyn, I'm Carolyn. And I'm like,
Yeah,
yes. And I
yeah, I'm
said,
aware.
and she says, would you like to have some tea? Just like that. I was like, she makes everything seem like it's your idea. This really generous people do that.
Love.
And I was
I
like,
will share with you for Lost Continent.
yeah,
There's an actress in it who out Caroline Monroe.
really.
Oh yes, I think her name is Dana Gillespie.
Dana Gillespie, like almost like the singer, but it was Diana Gillespie because
Hmm.
there's
Hmm.
like Diana Gillespie. Is that Dana? So um they couldn't be the same person because what
No,
like
but one of the actors in it
yeah,
fronted a band for a long time. I cannot think of his name, but in the film, he plays the young king of the Spanish Inquisition survivors.
nice.
You just have to see it.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, I
And
know.
yeah, and so
I know we're coming up on time, but I had to get you to see Lost
yeah,
Continent if that's the last thing I do.
yes. So yes, and then we have some tea, and I ask her all these questions, and we talk about what it's like to act opposite Christopher Lee. No big deal, right?
No
And
big deal.
no big deal. And she said it was very much like when you're children and you play acting. and she was just very nice. And she says, and we were talking about because the this was never published, unfortunately. And we talked about her, her iconic role in The Spy Who Loved Me, and she said,
Hmm.
I love
Hmm.
playing a baddie. Just used the word baddie, which I thought was delicious, right? A baddie. And to this day, I mean, the people who haven't seen The Spy Who Loved Me, I mean, when we were growing up, this was like a huge deal.
It was
Bond,
huge.
the
Yeah.
new Bond.
Yeah. And it
And
was the only Roger Moore Bond that I liked. I didn't
yeah,
like him as Bond,
he
but I
wasn't,
loved that one.
he was not Bond. I mean,
He was not Bond. He was not Bond.
Bond is like
He
hard.
made he made
Bond,
quiche
he
in one of the
made
Bond
Case. Oh
films.
no, oh no,
I'm
oh no.
sorry. I'm sorry.
And there's all this kind of like awful misogynistic jokes, and it
Hmm.
was just not,
Hmm.
it was cringe, but as the
Hmm.
kids say, but when Carolyn Monroe, she plays what this like this kind of a foreign agent or something, and she's delicious. I'm not sure what language she was supposed to be speaking or whatever. It didn't really matter. And then she's like, she's got this sort of smile on her face, and she's you know next thing you know she's she's piloting a helicopter, and she's firing a machine gun at Roger Moore and Barbara
Hmm.
Bach.
And looking utterly believable during the
Utterly
whole thing. Yeah.
believable. Yes,
The
it's
the only one who looked
glorious.
less believable was probably Barbara Carrera in
Yeah,
Never Say Never Again. I didn't
yeah.
buy anything she did, but she looked amazing doing it, so all good
Right.
by me.
Yes. Yes. I
Yeah.
mean, that's like we are, I guess, running up against time. But I would sort of like so we covered the retreats.
Hmm.
Okay, like let's drop in. Let's do a 5 minute like everything you need to know, like a kind of a Robert Rodriguez like film school in 10 minutes, whatever.
Hmm.
So okay, we're our who is our target listener for this?
For this podcast.
Yeah,
Um,
who would we say like
hmm.
in
Hmm.
this thought
Yeah.
experiment? We're doing a five
Hmm.
minute writing course.
Okay. Sure.
Um, and who are we
Hmm.
advising?
Sure. So if we're thinking about that question in terms of how I work and the type of work I do, what it kind of inures to most readily, I would say whether it's fiction, whether it's memoir, whatever the format, short story collection, it is for people who are trying to find their way into that part of the story that is the hard thing.
Hmm.
It's the traumatic thing. It's the difficult to quantify thing. It's the thing that kind of resists an easy explanation, and that maybe the writer is a little bit afraid of going near.
Hmm.
That is who I love to work with because I hate writing lists, as I tell writers. I think they're all silly, and like there's 10 rules for writing your mystery. No, there aren't. Why are you doing this? And like the internet is full of them. I think the jokey one, of course, is there's 3 rules for writing a bestseller. Unfortunately, nobody knows what they are. But there is one that I do kind of believe in, that at the end of the day, whatever you're writing, no matter what type of story it might be or whatever it is, it can kind of fall into one of 3 buckets. And it's the third one that I like to work in. Um, the first bucket, of course, is that very hoary old piece of advice that we all get: write what you know, which
Right.
I've always thought is not really advice. I think it's more of just like a factual statement that
Hmm.
all of us as writers, when we are starting out and we're doing a scene that opens in someone's bedroom, of course, we're probably going to be writing about our bedroom because
Right.
it just makes access easier
Right.
for what is otherwise a little bit of a daunting task, which is, what do I put on this blank page
Right.
if I'm not used to a blank page? How do I start?
Right.
So, write what you know is kind of where it's sort of center square for a lot
Hmm.
of us. Then, of course, there's write what you don't know,
Right.
which is drag cola, make
Right.
something up that doesn't exist. You're going to be pulling from things that you're familiar with, but it's going to take a very different shape. It's world building. So that is very valid. And then there's that third one. And that, frankly, is my world. And I think that what I love is seeing writers step into it without realizing that they did. And
Hmm.
it is write what you don't want anyone to know.
Nice.
That is what it means to write the hard thing. And it
Wow.
happens, you can give somebody a prompt, the simplest, silliest prompt in the world. And you will inevitably, if they're really trying to write, you will inevitably see them just kind of go, "Oh, I didn't mean to say that.
Hmm.
Like I didn't expect to write what I just wrote."
Hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, because your writer's mind, as you're writing what are otherwise simple throwaway words that have no meaning, like, pretend you're a shoe or whatever writing prompt you're doing, your mind begins to mirror and associate things to what you're writing about.
Yeah.
So the example I use is I remember I was just trying to write something stupid. So I wrote down the phrase, West Coast egg rolls are not egg rolls, which by the way, they're not. They're spring rolls. Shut the fuck up. They're
Right.
not egg rolls.
Okay.
I
Thank you.
know egg rolls. East Coast, I know what an egg roll is supposed to be. Don't
Right.
even
Yeah.
come at me with that skinny
Okay.
little cigar. It annoys me.
Can
Let's
we
let
talk?
out. We could talk. Oh, we could
Right.
talk. Um, and so I just jotted that down. But then I kind of went, wait a minute, what was just happening? Because as I was writing that stupid sentence,
Yeah.
associations were happening. So I began to just simply put lines
Yeah.
next to the word where a thought popped up. So
Nice.
West Coast egg rolls.
Right.
Right there in my head as I wrote it, I began to think about a friend of mine who we would ride our bikes together when we were kids to go get egg rolls from this restaurant near us.
Wow.
So I put his name because I'm like, he popped up right here next to this.
Right.
By the time I'd gotten to the end of the sentence, it was, oh, we don't talk as much anymore. I think our friendship changed. What happened?
Oh, wow.
That's what happens. That is writing what you don't want anyone to know. It happens alchemically, it happens organically, and it happens because the writer's mind is, to borrow a phrase from psychoanalysis, it is maybe out of consciousness, but it is never out of operation. It is always running.
Yeah.
So, a big part of what I do is I harness that. We work with that because your mind is trying to mirror. And in those mirrors, like, there's my friend's name. We don't talk as much anymore. What did I just do? I think I just created what could be the next couple of chapters.
Nice.
As I explore that, I explore what our friend, you know, I explore sitting in a restaurant, looking at an egg roll, and then looking at an empty chair. And I explore going back, this is what we were. Why aren't we that now?
That's
So it's
beautiful.
like, so that's kind of the space I like to move in.
Wow. So your egg roll, which is not a spring roll, is kind of like your Marcel Proust,
Mm.
Madeleine,
Hmm. Hmm.
dipped in tea, right? It's like
Right. Yeah.
it's got that, you know, recherche du temps perdu quality. I didn't mean to get all French and pretentious like, but look
Hey,
who I'm
man.
talking to, man.
Right.
Right?
Get French with me. Listen, that's my happy
Yeah, that's
place.
your happy place.
That's
Yeah.
my
So
happy place.
so people can so you get you so
Hmm.
you know people can like sign up.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
can um, be surrounded by the French countryside. You're in Grasse, you're in
Mhm.
Bordeaux,
Yeah.
you're drinking
Hmm.
wine.
Hmm.
You get to explore, you know, your
Yeah.
your project
Hmm.
in like the best
Yeah.
um, scenery in
Hmm.
the world. I mean, you get to speak
You get
French. You
pampered.
could get
Yes,
like
you get pampered. Like there's a private chef. Like you get pampered on these retreats, and it is really extraordinary. And it's not really an experience that most people have, period, let alone writers.
yeah,
So it's just lovely. And if it's something that people can do, if they can see their way clear to giving themselves what I think of as a gift of take yourself seriously.
yeah,
Like, yeah, yeah, you're a writer. You do deserve to do something. Immerse yourself. This is not some, sort of avocation. This is not a hobby. This is
right,
not a side gig. Immerse yourself in what you're doing. You
yeah,
deserve that. And if they can see their way clear to doing that, these retreats open people up in ways that I don't think they expect. And that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, hells yeah. Okay. So it's been really lovely, David,
Oh,
and
Alex, it's the
you
best.
know,
I'm
it's the
so
best,
enjoy
right?
talking to you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same here.
Bobby, it's been amazing.
And so so I will get back in touch about like sending
Okay.
you drag cola, get
Yes.
your shipping, and
Cool.
we talk about, some, future projects because I'm always
Would
looking
love. Yeah.
for new writers
Okay.
and yeah,
Cool. And find Lost Continent, my friend. Trust me.
I will. I got it here.
Okay.
Okay.
Good to talk
Please,
to
and
you.
same
I'll
here.
see you.
All
See you
right.
soon. Bye
Cheers.
bye.
Bye bye.